You know what's funny? Owning a whole farm without knowing the first thing about farming? Imagine being so rich, so out of touch, that your idea of rural escape involves occasionally staring at guinea fowls and pretending you're one with nature. Meanwhile, the only hoe you've ever held is probably in a museum. Welcome to the world of Mehring. He's rich, he's white, he's divorced, he's a conservationist, at least in theory. He owns a farm in apartheid South Africa, but let's not get carried away. He knows less about growing crops than you do about pig iron, which, by the way, is his actual business. This is a story about land, death, privilege, and the awkward dance of one man trying and failing to find meaning in all the wrong places. Mehring is the kind of man who has everything money can buy, but the more he owns, the less he actually has. He owns a farm he doesn't run. He has workers he doesn't understand. He has a son who won't speak to him. And he has a lawyer who speaks to his ex-wife on his behalf. So we can say his communication skills are, at best, outsourced. He bought the farm, not because he loved the land, but because, well, all rich white men in South Africa seem to have one. And as if to complete the set, he also has black workers, Jacobus, Solomon, and others, who not only manage the land, but were living on it long before Mehring's check cleared. Now here's where it gets interesting, or macabre, depending on how you like your metaphors. One day, a dead black man is found on Mehring's farm. No one knows who he is. Mehring does the responsible thing. He calls the police. But because it's a black man, the investigation goes exactly nowhere. The police bury him on the spot. No ceremony, no ID, no questions. Just buried. But nature, as they say, doesn't keep secrets for long. A heavy flood hits the farm. The land rebels. The water uncovers the man's body like a long-suppressed truth finally bubbling to the surface. This time, the locals on the farm, Mehring's black workers, give the man a real burial. They scavenge materials, borrow what they can, and hold a dignified ceremony. In doing so, they show more grace and humanity than Mehring ever has. It is this dead man, this anonymous, uninvestigated body, that becomes the symbol of something far bigger than death. For Mehring, it triggers an uncomfortable, creeping realization. Death is coming for him too. And when it does, what will his legacy be? Will he be buried by strangers on a land he never really belonged to? Mehring is a man both connected and alienated. He's connected to power-rich friends, overseas travel, control, but emotionally, he's got nothing. His wife lives in the US, talks to him only through her lawyer. His son, Terry, is estranged, largely because he refuses to conform to his father's conservative, militaristic values. In fact, Mehring can't even understand why Terry doesn't want to serve in the military. He sees his son's rebellion as a personal attack. But really, it's a rejection of a worldview that Mehring represents. Money as control, land as entitlement, people as functionaries. His loneliness becomes so profound that he ends up spending New Year's Eve with the black workers on his farm. Not because he's suddenly turned over a new leaf, but because he has nowhere else to go. This rich man has built a fortress of wealth, but instead of protecting him, it's imprisoned him. Here's where Gordimer throws the metaphorical grenade. Mehring owns the land, yes, on paper, in bank records, in all the ways colonizers have always claimed ownership. But deep down, even Mehring knows the land isn't truly his.
There'll be dissatisfaction because they were here when he came. They were squatting God knows how long before he bought the place, and they'll expect to have their grandchildren squatting long after he's gone.
Mehring may have bought the land, but the black people belong to it. Their connection is not transactional, it's ancestral. They don't need a deed to claim the soil under their feet. Their ownership is not written, it's lived. Mehring, for all his money, cannot shake the feeling that one day the land will spit him out, just like it did the body. And then comes the storm, not just rain, but a deluge, a violent upheaval.
But who could ever have imagined that the trickle of water could become a force to carry away a car and its occupants?
This passage hits differently when you read it as metaphor. That tiny trickle of water, it's the undercurrent of resistance in apartheid South Africa. dormant, ignored, belittled, until it isn't. Until one day it gathers strength and wipes away the structures built on injustice. The water uncovers the body confronts Mehring. Mehring, who had once felt safe in the illusion of control, now has to face what's been buried. He eventually abandons the farm, leaves it to the people he once considered tenants, squatters, or hands. The man who thought himself a conservationist ends up conserving nothing. Not land, not legacy, not even love. The book I've just narrated is The Conservationist by Nadine Gordimer, first published in 1974 and a joint winner of the Booker Prize that year. It's not an easy read. It won't hug you like a page-turner or entertain you like a Netflix drama, but it will haunt you. It will stretch your mind and test your patience with its shifts in perspective, first person, second person, omniscient. It will force you to walk in the stiff shoes of a man who thinks he owns everything, only to realize he belongs nowhere. It's a novel where the setting isn't just background, it's the conflict. This book exhausted me, in a good way. Reading The Conservationist felt like mental weightlifting. The narrative is dense, slippery, and sometimes honestly deliberately disorienting. Gordimer doesn't tell you what to think. She drops you right in Mehring's mind and sort of forces you to navigate the mess. And it's a mess of contradictions, ego, prejudice, and fear. The power of the book lies in what's not said. Mehring never openly admits that apartheid is wrong. He doesn't suddenly wake up and join the revolution, but Gordimer makes you feel his growing discomfort, his vague guilt, his spiritual emptiness, and that is the genius of the book. Some of the most powerful themes in The Conservationist include land ownership versus belonging. Who really owns the land? You know, the one with the paper deed, or the one whose ancestors are buried beneath it? Death as metaphor. The uncovered body becomes a haunting symbol of buried histories, neglected justice, and inevitable reckoning. Then there's the alienation of privilege. Mehring has everything, but lives like a ghost in his own life. The inevitability of change. The floods are not just weather, they're warning signs. Political upheaval is coming, and the old structures will not survive it. And of course, the most ironic theme of all, conservation. Mehring thinks of himself as a conservationist because he protects birds and wildlife. But Gordimer turns that on its head. Conservation is not about saving wildlife. It's about recognizing and preserving human dignity. Something Mehring fails to do until it's, well, too late. Nadine Gordimer was born in 1923 in South Africa and lived there all her life. She wrote with fire in her bones, against apartheid, against censorship, against silence. She joined the ANC when it was banned. She smuggled manuscripts. She used literature as resistance. In 1991, she won the Nobel Prize in Literature for being, in the words of Alfred Nobel, a writer whose work has been of very great benefit to humanity. Her major works include Berger's Daughter, July's People, A Sport of Nature, and My Son's Story. But The Conservationist remains one of her boldest, most challenging novels, a brutal look at a man, a nation, and a future that cannot be bought. So if you're looking for a book that makes you uncomfortable in the best way possible, read The Conservationist. It won't give you answers, but it will leave you asking the right questions. And maybe that's what true conservation is, not holding on to the old, but making space for what must come next. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more African literature and brutally honest reviews like this one. Until next time, read hard, think deep. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.